Hi, I'm Kim McLeod.
And I'm Gerald Richards. And welcome to Soul Kind Connections. We hope you enjoy our conversation today. Kim and I can't stop laughing, so hello. We'll try not to laugh our way through this episode. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back.
Soul Kind Connections. I'm Gerald. That's Kim. I'm pointing to her like she's next to me. That's Kim. She's next to me.
Hi.
Hi. And today we are talking about spirituality.
We are, yes.
Right?
I know. We
Okay.
like the big topics, don't we?
We'd go for the big ones, right? Who wants to talk about cheese? I mean, well, I could talk about cheese all day because I love cheese. But today we're going to talk about spirituality.
Yeah. Spirituality and cheese. There we go.
And cheese. I mean, they go together. They're total perfect combination. You know. Cheese. Now it's making me think of cheese. See, okay, let me think spirituality. Let me get out of cheese conversation. Spirituality.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know, how were you? I guess with me, the first question is, right? Because I think you get. How do I phrase it? You get to spiritual because I hope I don't want to offend people.
Well,
let's start there.
If we do, let's do the thing beforehand. We are not setting out to offend anyone. If someone is offended by anything that we say, then we
apologize.
We apologize. We're sorry.
We apologize.
We are
We're
not
sorry.
intentionally offending you, but we are just being real and showing up and having a conversation. And that's really what this whole thing about this podcast is, that we have a conversation. So, okay, on you go. What were you going to say?
There are views, right? There are views, and we're not they don't have to be your views. There are views. We just hope if something we say resonates with you, that's a good thing, right? So okay, with that caveat, my question starts, I guess, with, because I think when I think of spirituality, I don't think religion. I think they're two separate things, right? And I think you can be a spiritual person and not have a religious practice or be part of a religion at all.
Yep.
And I always think that comes from, because of how we are raised. I think sometimes we start with you're part of a religion, or you are some sort of religious practice in your life, family, past, and you evolve to sort of get to a spiritual practice as you think about the world and you see how the world works. And you're like, so I guess I'm starting with the question of, did you start with a spiritual practice or religious practice? Were you religious growing up?
No. So
no.
I didn't grow up going to church.
Mm-hmm.
I remember someone coming to the door to ask us about going to Sunday school, and my mum thought that would be a good idea. She should go to Sunday school, and I was like, school on a Sunday? Don't think so. And I suppose because we weren't.
Don't think so. No.
Don't think so. We weren't. We didn't have a religion as a family, particularly. Although if you would have said anything, you would have said we were kind of Church of Scotland Protestant, which is, if anybody asks, what religion are you? Because it was always a thing, what religion are you? And you would go,
what religion are you?
I don't really know, but that, I suppose it would be that. My aunt, who I was very fond of, growing up, she did go to church. So occasionally, if I stayed with her, sometimes I would end up going to church with her. But I think I would say that I never really felt comfortable in any sort of formal religious setting. It just didn't quite kind of resonate with me. So I didn't have a sort of practicing faith. I didn't have anything that the family had grown up in. So what about yourself, Gerald? What about you?
It's interesting. I grew up, I would say, the family or the religion. Well, I'm going to say Southern Baptist. We were Baptists. And my great-grandmother, when she was alive, was very religious. Like, she had a Bible. We had Bibles everywhere. She had a Bible everywhere. And because she was housebound, she was housebound, the deacon would come to our house.
Okay.
And it's funny, first time he did it when I was sort of aware of, you're adult enough to understand, or old enough to understand the world, or starting to understand the world. I remember they came to visit her, and we would have to leave the room while they were in the room, and they closed the door, and they would do ministry with her. And my grandmother, definitely, she got the Holy Spirit. She would scream, she would cry, and you're in the room and you're thinking, like, what are they doing to her? And it
Mm-hmm.
was in essence like them. She had religion, and she was finding religion. We, but beyond that, and my grandmother was religious. I think she became more religious as she got older. But we were it was one of the things where we were supposed to go to church not every Sunday. And I never had to go to Sunday school, but we had to go to church for Easter. We never went for Christmas. We never went for any other holiday, but we went every Easter. We had to go to Easter. And I did that up until I was 14.
Okay.
And got completely turned off from religion. I remember going to church. It was at the time my sister's boyfriend's family. We went to church with his family for Easter. And you're sitting in church, and I was always just like, oh my God, 3 hours. Why are we still in church? It's 3 hours long. And they're preaching, and the sermons were always good, somewhat. And the collection plate comes around. You hear the collection plate comes around, and they take money. And I'm 14 years old, so I've got like maybe $5 in my pocket. I don't have any money really. So collection plate comes, and I pass it on because I'm like, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting there, and I'm just sort of listening to sermon, and then suddenly the collection plate comes back to me. And everyone sort of stares at me in the row like, what are you doing? And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm a kid. Why are you collecting money from me? And then it sort of was like, why are we collecting money at all? Right? I don't understand it. And the sermon ends, and you see the preacher at the time, the reverend, I don't know, has a Cadillac. The big, and you hear stories about this, right? That the
Mm-hmm.
reverend, the minister, whatever, would have the beautiful car, the big house, and all these things. And I'm like, are we collecting money for him? Because if we're collecting money for him, I have a problem with it. And I'm 14, and I'm like, I have a problem with that. So I remember going back home to my grandmother. My grandmother asked, she didn't go because she had to go to work, and so she didn't go. And so I walked in, and she'd been making Easter dinner and for us to have after she was gone. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, I'm done with church. It literally was this. I said, I'm done with church. I'm done. And she's like, well, why? I was like, because I said, it feels weird to me. And I told her the experience, and she was like, okay, well, how are you going to, you have to find God. You have to do this with God. And I said, isn't God everywhere? And she goes, well, yes. So why do I have to go to church? And she looked at me, and she was like, do what you want. And that was the last time I walked into it. That was the last time I walked into a church that was not about school or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I would describe myself for a long time as an agnostic. I was agnostic. I wasn't an atheist. I was agnostic. I doubted the existence of God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I was like, somehow there's an order to this, but I'm not sure what that order is. Somehow there's a tapestry of existence, and I don't know what it is, but I don't know if it's God if there's someone up there doing it, or if it's something else. So that's me. That's a long-winded me about my religious.
Yeah. I suppose I would resonate with the kind of agnostic part, because that's probably where I was as well. Just going, okay, there's something. I was kind of going, there's probably something. Didn't really. I think my thing is with any of the kind of religions that I saw, it was, you need to believe this. Here are our rules, and this is what you have to believe. And so I think even as a child, I think that's part of me going, anytime I had rules, I needed to understand, well, what were those rules for? And it didn't kind of make sense to me that this was, that you had to. And why are some people, and certainly if you grow up in Scotland, and definitely the west of Scotland, there's a real divide between Protestant and Catholic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There was a real divide around that. And that that kind of got me a little bit as well around, well, why do they have to be in different places, and why is it so different? So I think that there's a lot of me going, I don't quite fit with any of these models and these rules, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure that there maybe is something else going on.
Yeah.
And that's probably
Yeah.
where I was to start with. That was the kind of, that was probably as much as it was. I was a wee bit, yeah, there's maybe something, but I suppose when you're young, I think as well, for me, the kind of journey to opening up to a more kind of spiritual level is probably something that the majority of people come to a bit later in life. Because then you've gone through certain things in your life, and that maybe make you question as to whether or not is this all there is. So when you're young and you're, like we've talked before about, you're just interested in boys, girls, whatever.
Yeah. Both. Both. Neither. But something like that. Yeah.
Going out, having fun, having the snazzy shoes.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are kind of, mostly, take up your your mental capacity, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's only as you probably get that bit older and go through other life experiences that then you maybe start to go, okay, is there more to, and that would think for me, I suppose, is there more to life
Than this?
Than what's going on? And that's probably what it's been.
Oh, what they're telling us. Yeah. It's interesting. I would say because I wound up taking a religion class in high school. And then I took religion classes in college too, just to learn more about religion. Because I was like, if I'm going to be agnostic about this, if I'm not going to believe any of these things, if I'm questioning this, I need to know the basis of why the question is, but also the basis of the religions.
Yeah.
And that was what turned me off to organized religion. Not to tell you, kid, but for me to make an assessment about religion was enough and understand the history of religion and the history of religions and what's happened around the world with missionaries and people, faith and people using faith as weapons and using God as a weapon. And I was like, oh no. And so none of them. And so for a long time, I don't know about you, for a long time, I would say agnostic, but I never really thought about it. I was like, I'm not. People would ask, or people would invite me to. I always had people trying to get me to come to church. Always. People trying to get me to come. You need to come to my church. Oh, you need to come to church. Oh, you'll understand it's completely different. Oh, it's my church is different. My church, and every now and then I'm like, okay, I'll go. And I would go, and I'm like, I don't see how this is. I see it where you're doing it differently, but I don't see where it's different. There's still a significant tenet in your relationship that's telling me to worship somebody.
Yeah.
And I have a problem with that, right? That right. And so that was always my big thing, was like, you want me to worship one person, and that one person you want me to worship is some white-haired white man floating in the sky.
I know.
That I'm supposed to be like, oh, okay, that's it. Though we did have a picture of a black Jesus in my house growing up, so that was always amazing. I always loved that. We had black Jesus. Black Jesus. We had black Jesus in my house. But that sort of thing was always a thing that I'm like, to your point of it being, there's got to be more to it than this. There's got to be more to life and existence than this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think probably, and I know this is definitely for me where the questioning came, was experiencing death and loss.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Because that's the point when you're going, where are they, and what's the point of life then? Because it was like that was what's really started kind of me questioning things. And I think the conversations that I've had with others, a lot of it has come from that too, that's been the point where, that's the questioning that often comes from that. And when that happened, I mean, this was, before Callum, but I mean, we lost my mother-in-law very suddenly. She was killed crossing the road. And I mean, you're just obviously really tragic. Then my aunt that I said that I was very, very close to died the following year from cancer, almost a year later from cancer. And two women who were really pivotal in my life, that was really the question. there was a lot of stuff then about, okay, so what else is going on? And, I had, my husband had lost a lot of family. I mean, I had never been to a funeral before I met him. And then it was almost like we were constantly at funerals. So a lot of his family had died quite young. But I think between his mum dying and then my aunt dying, that was the point. You're going, okay, what is going on then? Where does this sit? And religion did not help me. Some people would say, oh, like and maybe for some though, it's then a faith and a practice and comfort, and for some that does work. For me, it just started me questioning more, and that was kind of where me first started to go, this is curious. So
yeah. I think it was interesting because I was thinking when my great grandmother died, to your point of there not being answers, right? And it was like I wasn't finding them, and the more I studied religion, the more I was like, I'm not still finding answers in it. But it was also the thing of like, well, she's just gone, like, or what was it? She's floating in the sky, watching from above, and I was like, okay, that doesn't feel right to me at all, right? And so, but I didn't know, I had no answer for it, right? And then I had in college, a good friend of mine died of cancer while we were in like we're 21 or so.
Yeah.
She's one of my college roommates actually for a while, and it's really tragic. But it was the first time someone who was my age, who I knew, who was a friend, who I'd lived with, who was close to me, had passed away. And it was, it shakes you in a way at that age, because that age is the age you think, right? Up to that point, you are invincible. And you believe you are invincible. And you are invincible as a young person, right? You're like, oh, we're going to live forever, of course. Look at us living our lives, partying, doing our things. And then my friend died. And it was this thing of like shaking, like, oh, okay, so we don't live forever, which I knew, but young, suddenly your youth is somewhat gone.
You're faced with it. Yeah. You're
faced with it. But it still sort of was like, I don't, it made me even more agnostic, actually. It was pushing me more towards the atheist side of things.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, somehow this person who's very lovely and very wonderful and very sweet has passed away. But these crazy, evil human beings, or if you believe in the current concepts of good and evil, I guess we do.
Yeah.
Are still alive roaming the earth.
Yeah.
How's that possible?
It's not fair. It's not fair.
It's not fair. So therefore, religion doesn't answer that question, right? And you have to sort of stop thinking that way. But that was, to your point of it being around loss and death, is when you start to sort of be like, what? I'm not sure it makes you question more what's going on and what's happening.
Yeah.
And so, and people kept inviting me to church. And I kept, every now and then I'd go. Most times I would say, I started just telling people no. I think the last time I went into a church, I was dating a guy. And he really wanted me, really, 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 really wanted me to come to his church. And that was not I was like, no. And like, I don't have a thing about if you're religious, that's great. If you're not, that's fine, right? Whatever you believe is what you believe. Don't force me to come. And so I was like, you know what? To appease you and to not deal, I'm going to come to your church. And it was a very progressive church, very sweet. They had mixed lots of beliefs and religions and religious practices and things into sort of a service that they were doing. And there was music, and it was very nice. And it was done. And I felt like there was a point where they were all trying to recruit me to come to church. And he was trying to recruit me to come to church. And I was like, I'm not doing that. That's not me. And it sort of was like his thing of like, well, then I don't think we can go out. And I was like, okay. Which was not what he was expecting at all. I was like, right. He was expecting like, well, of course you'll convert. Almost like you'll convert.
You'll convert.
Course.
Yes.
You'll convert, of course. Yep. And I was like, no, I'm all right. No. I said, I don't. I don't. don't believe what you believe. And I don't know if I ever will. And I'm not going to convert because that would make you happy. So I live my life as an agnostic human being roaming the earth, doing my thing, but still questioning what the deal was, right? Still questioning, like, this can't be it. Like, if this is everything, I can be okay with everything. But there's I was feeling starting to feel an aimlessness to my life. That I was like, yeah.
I think that's the thing, is that it's the meaning. For me, it was the kind of this kind of search for the meaning of life. You know, it was kind of like, I wasn't looking for God. I was looking to try and make sense of, you know, what is going on. And also, you know, I was curious about this whole, is there, you know, like, what is it that we don't see? You know, what are we not seeing? You know, how, just, so there was like a question and thinking that was coming up for me, certainly, you know, around this, of, you know, having faced these losses. So the connection then became into a, you know, a bit of kind of reading some stuff and the interesting for the kind of synchronicities of things that would suddenly come up, and you would then be reading different books and maybe opening up to other concepts of things that I hadn't before. And it started off even like not necessarily about anything around the religious field, but more about energy for me. So I remember, I think the Celestine Prophecies. I don't know if you've ever read the Celestine Prophecies.
I've never read it, but I remember that book.
Right. So the Celestine Prophecies was probably the book that actually, if I said where was this beginning, it was there. And the Celestine Prophecies is a story. You know, it's a, you know, a hero's journey type story of, you know, someone kind of like meandering through life trying to kind of figure out, is there more to life than this? And they were experiencing some interesting things going on for themselves. They were starting to experience some different things, and they were looking at what is energy and how does it, you know, what does energy look like and where does that go? And that was probably the first book that really kind of, like, again, it got me thinking, this is really curious. This is really curious. And I was then, I was then in a circle with some other people around who were looking at other stuff. It was more than the kind of holistic field of, you know, like therapists and stuff that I was, because I'd done my NLP and hypnotherapy, and I had done emotional freedom techniques, and I had done some stuff around that sort of healing world that just like puts you in contact with different people. That's the thing. It's like, you know, so that I was having conversations with people around, well, how does energy work? How does Reiki work then? How is this healing modality work? What about, you know, I remember it was hearing things around your different, like Huna, the Hawaiian, which is, you know, kind of Hawaiian principles of, you know, kind of spirituality and healing and a whole philosophy, I suppose, experiencing some of that. So it was these things that kind of, it was like little breadcrumbs, I suppose, that I was following to kind of explore, that was just opening up my mind to possibilities. And that's kind of where things started. It was like, oh, this is curious. I'm curious. So what about for you then? Where did the, you know, from not wanting to be in church, not being religious,
any of those things,
where was what was it that then started to open you up to explore if there was more?
It's a good question. The first thing that made me think, you're gonna laugh at this, was the Force.
Yes,
right, Star Wars,
yep,
right?
Absolutely.
Which, not that I'm not practicing the Force, that's not spiritual, but it was interesting of Yoda talking about the Force and how it works and what it is.
Yeah.
That I remember going, that sounds right. That sounds smart. That sounds closer to what I believe. But I'm learning it from a movie and a master Yoda who's really a puppet. I don't know if I should base my life on that, so I'm not gonna do that. Right? And it wasn't until years. I was in my 20s. I remember being in New York City right before I moved off to college. I was in college and I was traveling through New York City, and these two guys stopped me on the street. And they're like, "Can we talk to you for a second?" And I'm like, "All right, this is weird. It's New York City, so it's always weird when people do that to you in New York City. In the 90s, when people do that, their 80s when people do that to you, it's always weird. Something's gonna happen. I get it, right? But these two young guys are like, "Hey, do you know what Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is? Nam Myoho Renge Kyo." And I was like, "No, I have no idea." And they're talked about, they started talking about their Buddhist practice and how they were Buddhists. And in essence, they were trying to recruit. They're not recruit, I guess is the right way, but they were trying to want to learn more about Buddhism. But I was on my way to a party, and so I did not talk to. One of them was very cute, and in my universe, usually I'd have been like, "Oh, I'd love to learn about Buddhism," but I was like, "I'm on my way to a party. This guy's not gonna sway me, so I'm gonna go." And it was years later. I was in Chicago. I was working at a job, and the woman came to me who I worked with, who I loved. She was great. And she came to me and she said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And I want to talk about something. And I made it in my brain because I had someone else at the job who was very religious. And she was always trying to get me to go to her church. And I was always like, no. But then this person came to me, a woman came to me, and she was like, "Oh, I would like Priscilla." Her name's Priscilla. And Priscilla comes to me and says, "Hey, I'd like to talk about something." And I'm like, "Oh God, this is another church thing. I can't. But you know what? Because we work together and I'm going to be respectful, tell me." And she looks at me and she goes, "Do you know about Nam Myoho Renge Kyo?" And this is like 15, 20 years later from when I had this first conversation about it, right? And I'm like, this is weird. I've heard of it, and I told this story, and she's like, "You know what? Well, it's I practice this sect of Buddhism. It's Japanese. It's Nichiren Buddhism." She said, "You might know it because it's the same sect of Buddhism, or one of the sect of Buddhism that Tina Turner practices," which is not why I did it, but I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that. Had no idea." Well, why don't you come to our it's not a temple. Why don't you come to our center and just check it out? And it was at a time I was in Chicago. I had broken up with my partner. I was I don't know if I was looking for the meaning of life, but I was like, back to that, there must be more to life than this, right? I was in a job.
Yeah.
The job was okay, but I wasn't excited about the job. And I kind of wanted to leave, but I was also not excited about Chicago. I love living in Chicago. I like living in Chicago, but I didn't love living in Chicago. And I was really sort of at this crossroads. It's back to this aimlessness thing, right? And I was sort of thinking about it and trying to figure out. And so I went to the center. And I went to the first sort of services around chanting and praying and chanting and learning more about Buddhism and the sect of Buddhism. And everything they were talking about to me and everything in the teachings of it completely resonated.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those things where I'm going to tell you something that you probably will not believe, and many people will not. I used to have really bad anger issues.
Okay.
I used to have really bad anger issues. Really bad anger issues. Like arguments with people, not fights, close to fights and things. I had really bad anger issues. And I started practicing Buddhism. And it started talking about, sort of looking at life, how you turn things that are turning poison into medicine. So turning things that are happening bad in life, how do you look at them differently? How do you sort of, move towards, right, worrying about life and death and just really just looking at you are part of a universe and you are doing, and that's where it started, started practicing. And there were people in the center who you could tell also were really looking at it like with a very, like, I don't look at Buddhism as a religion. I look at it as a practice, right? And not everyone who's Buddhist will think that way, but that's how I think about it. And there were people at the center who were definitely looking at it like a religion. So they would say things that were very akin to what I remember hearing in church. And I remember hearing about religion and me going, that's not how I see it. But also I remember saying to someone and my friend, Like, this is weird to me. I don't know. And she said, oh, but that's how that person sees this. That doesn't have to be how you see it. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so I started practicing more and started chanting. And the chanting was really good because I had tried other Buddhist meditation. And I will say this, and all respect to people who meditate, meditation puts me to sleep.
Yeah.
I can't be still with my thoughts in that way, because when I'm still with my thoughts in that way, I go to sleep. That to me is still with my thoughts, is sleepness. Is sleeping. But chanting felt like, and I explained it to a friend of mine, chanting felt like I was becoming a tuning fork.
Yeah.
And chanting was allowing me to tune myself into the frequency of the universe. And so just sort of center myself and become one. And I started chanting, I started doing it. The anger issues were gone. Very rarely do people, as people say now, like, you get angry?
Yeah. Yeah.
You right?
I've never.
No, you've never seen it.
No, I've never seen it. No.
People know me for people who knew me before, and people who know me now are like, my sister was like, you're completely different now. You know that, right? And I was like, wow. So, and that was my spiritual awakening to me, was like being able to sort of practice and start practicing Buddhism and start sort of opening myself. I felt myself opening up to, it was more about the universe. And what does the universe have to offer me? And what do I have to offer to the universe? And what sort of, it started answering questions to me about, this is why things happen. Or thinking like, I don't have to, there are no answers to those questions, Gerald. That's okay, right? Live your life, right? Figure it out. And so that's where I am now. I've been practicing now. Well, I started practicing, it was about 2004, 2003, 2004, and have been practicing since then. And it definitely, I chant every morning. I chant in the evening. And it is that to me is my spiritual center. That's my practice now. What about you?
So, yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I love what you were saying about the tuning fork thing. I've done a little bit of chanting with, so my friend Karen and I, and if she listens to the podcast, she'll laugh, because Karen's been the one that has over the years said, do you fancy coming out to this thing, right? And we've found ourselves at a Buddhist, I mean, she's not religious, but we found ourselves in some Buddhist centre doing something. We found ourselves at some, what we thought were going to a holistic fair, and it turns out to be some sort of strange kind of Christian spiritual thing about, here Jesus wants you as a sunbeam, I mean, it was like, we've laughed about all these things. Every time she says to me, do you want to come out for something, I'm like, where are you taking me to now?
Where to now? What are we trying now?
Yeah, but we did when I moved to Largs, and Karen lives in the town. So we started a Wednesday evening session with another friend, Sandra, and occasionally some other people would come along, and we were just exploring different things. So it was different whether it was meditations or it was guided meditation. We were just like, it was this whole connection to something beyond ourselves, I suppose, is what we were doing. And she introduced me to the Om Gam Gana Pataya Namaha chant, right? And it was like, and we had to do this, and it was something like, 140 times or something. It was like, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, just because it was that sort of frequency and so I get what you're saying about we'll need to do some chanting together someday.
Get
you
together,
can, so that we can experience it.
Yeah,
but it does.
definitely.
It takes you pitches you out of your thoughts into another space without it being meditation. Because I get that whole meditation stuff isn't for everybody. There is sometimes that I can. I love it when I can really go deep in a meditation, because it's a space for me where I think then I've got out of my own way, and it's then a sort of channel to consciousness, as I would call it, and that's where there's things come up and there's a different, you know, there's visions for things, there's stuff that come. So it's not about not hearing or seeing anything for me whenever I'm in a meditative state, but yeah, interesting. Yeah. So how did I get from, you know, so now, you know, anybody who kind of like knows me now, you know, I've just going, here I'm trying to bring spirituality in the business world together, right? So, which is people go, what? And the journey to that is quite interesting. And I don't know if we've spoken about this, about me then hearing voices, because that's where it started.
I think we talked a bit about it, but talk more, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it a bit.
I let on the, yeah. Just here I am, you know, having started to explore all this, be reading some books and things, and then I am in an HR job at this point, walking down the corridor in work, and I would hear Kim. And I would turn round and there would be nobody there. And this happened consistently for, you know, like weeks. I would be in the car on my own. It was like I was just hearing my name being called and called and called. And it was like, what is going on? And you think, I can't tell anybody this because, you know, they're going to come with a nice little jacket that kind of cuddles you, you know, and kind of have a little, here you have a little padded retreat room to kind of be in. That was, I'm going, that's what they're, you know, it's like, this isn't normal. That's what, this isn't normal. And then, yeah, eventually then saying to somebody who, in a pub, yeah, yes, oh, they go, oh, this is happening to you. What's going on? Why are you, somebody's speaking to you, why are you not answering them? And that, I was like, how do you know? Right? How do you know? And then he described my aunt that I was so close to, the one that had died. And it's like, she's the one who's talking to you. Why are you not answering her? And I was kind of like, oh, okay. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. You know, and he said to me, go to the spiritualist church. And I'm going, I don't do church. No, and he just said, no, go to the spiritualist church. There's one in Glasgow. Actually, it was just down the road from where I used to work. And he just said to me, you're going to meet somebody that's going to be a really good friend. And I was like, okay, all right. So because this had been happening and I'm doing this kind of questioning of it, is there more to life? And, you know, so, and I'm like, right, okay, I'm going to go. So I looked up the phone number for this place, phoned them up and said, what happens?
What do I do?
What do I do?
What do you do? What do you do? What do I do?
And the person on the phone said, yeah, well, we've got services on a Sunday, a Monday, or whatever, and just come along. It's all right. You know, don't worry about it. Just come along. You'll be made welcome. So I was like, right, okay, I'm going to go. And I walked. So I decided I was going this night on my own. I didn't even recruit anybody to come with me. I was like, I'm going to be brave, going to go myself. Go into the building. And it is like, it was strange because it's an old Victorian sort of like terraced building that looked exactly like the offices that I had worked on in the next street, you know, so it was quite weird. It was like the actual building coming in was kind of similar. And this chap sort of like sees me coming and said, oh, hello, are you new? Is this your first time? And I was like, yeah. Come with me, he says. And I'm going to sit up the back because that was the plan. I'll sit at the back and watch and see what goes on. And he walks me all the way down to the front. Right? And then he goes,
people do that. I hate when people do that.
This is Anne. Anne'll look after you. Right? So not that my Anne that's enlarged with me, but this is Anne. This is
okay.
Right?
Different
different Anne, right?
You see me going,
like,
oh, that's like
because but I was like, okay, yeah, and we sat, and you know what it's like when you meet somebody and you just really click.
Yeah. Yes.
And we were chatting, and we were just honestly, it's as if I had known her forever. That was just how it felt. It was like, you know, just, and we're chatting and we were just sharing some things. And I said, I don't know what happens. And she's like, oh, it's all right. I'll keep you right, says she. You know, I'll keep you right. And we're sitting there the whole time going, all right, okay, that's fine. Right, they start, and there's a medium comes on stage, and they've got a platform, and they do a little chat, and they talk about something, you know. There's some songs, they have their own hymns, and then the medium will give a reading. And then connection to people that are in there, basically to pass on messages from those who are in the spirit world, is what the spiritualist church philosophy is. So we're supposed to stand up to sing, and Anne forgets to tell me to get. Just the two of us are then just laughing because she's saying, "I'm supposed to be looking after you, and here we are. I'm forgetting to get you started." So, it was just it was a really comfortable experience. And then the medium comes along and says, I think we might have said this before, came along and said, "Can I speak to you?" And I'm looking, I'm sitting in the front seat going, "Okay." And she says to me, "Who's Sinclair?" Which obviously is my husband's name. And I'm like, and she said, "It's all right. I don't want you to." It's like she wasn't asking me to tell her, but it was the, "Do you recognise? Can you accept that name? Do you know?" And I was like, And then she went on to say a whole lot of other things about my daughter, who was only 3 at the time. I was like looking at photographs the night before about and then there was references to things that I just didn't quite understand. And there was so much coming at me at the time. I was like, and then she said, "Thank you very much." And off she goes. So my first experience in a spiritualist church was guided to the front when I wanted to sit at the back, sitting here and getting this boom, 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 here you are.
Mm-hmm.
I remember coming home and, like coming in to see Sinclair and going, and telling him, and he's like, "Okay, all right." And he was recognising references from his mum. I mean, there was a whole lot of things that I was going, "What is this?" So that experience then really, that just kind of blows everything wide open and led me to the whole thing that me going, "Okay, so what if this is true then? What does that mean for me?" And that was really the thing that then just went, "Okay, here we are. We're into this huge, like soup pot," which is another word that we got this, of what on earth is this, and what does this mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the thing I would say is, for me, my learning has been experiential. It's been about things that have happened to me. And I would say I am a very grounded Scottish woman with feet planted very firmly on the earth. So this was not someone who was already going, "Oh, I believe in all this stuff, and I'm light and fairy and I'm up here." I was like, I had to question all of the things that were then coming, because it was like, how is this happening? How does this work? So that was my thing, was, how does this work then?
Yeah.
How do they do that? How is what?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not faith. Yeah. I feel the same way. It wasn't like suddenly that I'm practicing Buddhism and I'm like, ooh, right. The universe has opened. It did start to explain a lot of things to me about how, more in terms of, or it not explain things. It made sense to a lot of things that had happened in my life.
Yeah.
Right. And I look at that in terms of friends and how I meet people and how you become connected to people, right? Because there's a thing in Buddhism, right? You go through Buddhism. It's not so much reincarnation as much as you live your life again and again and again, right? The spirit comes back again because you are learning in every iteration.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you learn in every iteration, and you meet people in every iteration. And those are the same people whose spirits have come through, and how you connect and those things. And that was really, because things, right, where you think sometimes where you meet people and you're like, we have no real reason that you and I should have met and been friends, except that you have met and been friends because the universe has put the situation together for you two to meet again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was that thing of like thinking through that. Buddhism started to explain a lot of like certain people in my life who had come into my life, who I've 1 or 2 friends who I know, who there's no earthly reason why, no logical reason why that person and I should have met, except something in me or some voice or what it was in the back of my brain was like, talk to that person, or put us in a situation where we started talking. And now we're best friends, right? Or how people come into your life and come out of your life and those things. But I thought of it as Buddhism was definitely a way that it opened up my mind to like possibilities and how things work and being more attuned with things. And I did see like opportunities and things I would never have taken a look at before, or things that would have scared me to do before, that I was like, what's scary? Like, it made me actually look at things
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how I acted in the universe and how I carried myself in the universe and how I acted with my friends and how I acted in jobs and how I acted in things about what I was doing, like really made me sort of look at it and look at things and go, why are you doing that? And that was the chanting was like actually time to sort of sit there and chant
Yep. Yep.
and to be like, why are you why are you mad at that person? What are you mad at that person because you're mad at that person, or are you mad at that person because you're mad at yourself? Right? Are you mad at that person because they're bringing up something within you? And that I feel is like spirituality, right? Is the ability to like let the universe work its magic through you, and it's whatever it is in the universe, right? And understanding that there's a tapestry, there's some sort of pattern, but you are part of the pattern, and that's what it is. It's not preordained or predestined. It's always sort of coming up, right? Like anything, right? You make a shirt and you decide to do something different. But it was that sort of thing of like being able to be like, oh, if I actually am just open to the universe and to experiences and to life, things will happen. Right.
Yeah.
And it's much more of a clear spiritual path and practice. Look at it. That's why I said, do you believe in spirituality? I said, it's a practice, right? It's more of a practice than it is anything else. And what's your practice? Because I think about it, right? If people are looking and they're like, oh, well, he's born a Baptist and he only went to church. I tried every religion on the planet. Not everyone, but a lot of them, right? I went to Catholic church. I went to Protestant church. I went to synagogue. I went to other Buddhist temples. I did all those things, right? Because I didn't want to be the person that's like, I get religion. I was like, I'm going to see all of these things, right? And Buddhism was a thing that, and this sect, this Nichiren Buddhism resonated with me primarily because it was all about peace and about connection and about respect. And it was like, I was like, oh, okay. I get that. I get that. That resonates with me more than anything. So like, and there's a part of this religion, of this practice where you were supposed to recruit more people, right? You're supposed to bring other people into it, which is not the part of it that I actually ascribe to. I tell people, and I've actually talked to people about it and they have started practicing, but I don't go out of my way to be like, let me talk to you about like the cute guy in New York City. Right.
The cute guy in Edinburgh.
The cute guy in Edinburgh trying to make me that's how I get a date. That's how I get a date. See, let me roam the streets talking to people about Buddhism. That's what I should. Probably, you know what? That would probably get me a date. Probably that would get me a date. But that's one of the pieces of it I don't ascribe to. Right. I think people I'll talk to about it. Whether or not you come to it and you believe it is great. But if you don't, no harm, no foul.
But right? That's probably why it's like it's part of the whole thing about this podcast and the two of us is that we recognize people have different experiences, different beliefs, different things. And it's like, and that's okay for you to have that. Whereas a lot of the things in religion is you have to come in and you have to believe and be the same as us to be part of something. And maybe that's where the two of us are we've got similar values and beliefs around this. Is that, that's it. We can explore and exchange stuff, but we don't have to be the same and have to do the same things to really connect. Yeah.
Because we talk about, right, both of our practices and what we believe. And it's not a thing of like, Gerald, you need to believe I heard voices. I believe you heard voices. That's not a problem. Yeah. Because I hear voices too, but that's all different. It's probably my voice talking to me. That's how you view, that's your world. And I respect that of your world. And I'm not being like, oh my God, I don't understand that. It's like, wow, I actually want to understand more. Because there are pieces when we talk about it that I'm like, that's interesting to me. I actually, I see it, right? I see those things. And it's the sort of the openness of it, of like, I see it. We've talked about a couple of things and I'm like, that makes sense to me. How you see the world. Do you not think
then if people actually started with, I'm curious, that's interesting, we could be in a very different society altogether then, isn't it? That
such a different world. Curiousness, that to me is curiousness, right? Curiosity, curiousness. Yeah. Curiosity, Gerald. So the English major and writer, curiousness is not a word. Curiosity. It is now. Curiousness. Use curiousness anytime you want to. Curiosity. I wish that people write more. I agree with you completely. People came to the world and more like, that's curious. Oh, I'd like to learn more about that, or I'm interested in that, right? Or I got it and I'm not interested. Okay,
Yeah,
move on.
That's fine. Move on. Something
I'm
else.
not interested, and now let me condemn it because I'm not interested. You're not interested?
Yeah.
Move on, right?
Yeah,
Let's do
exactly.
it. But,
yeah. You
right?
don't have to. Yeah.
You
And
don't
that was so my experience then with the spiritualist church is I then went for, probably the best part of a year or so. Got to meet people, got to hear different mediums. Some were interesting. some I felt were really kind of connecting to something. I was like, okay, how are they doing this? How are they then connecting? And that just led me on a bit of a path as well around so what is it that you're connecting to? But the thing I liked about the spiritualist church, again, they had a set of sort of principles, but it was about find your own truth. Look at the evidence of things. It wasn't a case of you have to believe this. It was that was why I suppose I've kind of resonated with that. But what who are saying about the journey of life, what it was also, I reckon, preparing me for was the worst that was to come, because this was before my son's death.
Okay.
This was before Callum's death.
This is before Callum's death. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This was before Callum's death. So people who know me, think that my kind of like spiritual awakening and all the stuff that I came to was after Callum's death, and it wasn't. A lot of this was before. And where I look now and go, I have a belief of my soul. So like I said, this reiteration of, this consciousness that's in my body that is not the human part of me, but for me is connected to this greater consciousness, universe, God, whatever people want to call it. Had a bit of a plan of some things to experience while I was here, and one of them was actually experiencing loss, severe loss, which was my son. And this, I look now and go, if I hadn't really explored all of these things about connection beyond death, about energy, about frequency, about the opportunity to still stay connected, then my world here would have been very different when Callum died. My experience of life would have been very different. Very, very different.
I agree with that.
So it really had then helped give me, let's say, some practice. It wasn't, but the other interesting thing, I didn't feel the need to go to spiritualist church after Callum died. I didn't feel the need to go and find a medium. I didn't feel the need to look for that's a community to support me, because what I had sort of learned in my journey of all my exploration into loads of different things was that it was possible for me to do this myself. So my thing then was in communication with Callum, and it started off with me just writing, because I had never tried really to build. I go, okay, I know that it's possible for people to communicate with spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it, that is no longer in a physical body, because I had seen this and witnessed this and had enough things and evidence that really went, there's no way you could know this about me and my family. So those things, for me to go, okay, I know this is possible, but I hadn't really had, it wasn't a desire for me to then become a medium and be on stage and be on the platform sharing this. That wasn't a desire for me. But when my son died, my desire was, where are you? And how do we still connect? Because I know that it's possible, because I've seen it and I've got a belief that it's possible, but I have not done it. And as you say, I learn from experience. So my thing then was writing. And my first of all was, where are you? Because I'm in the depths of grief, and I'm pouring out all of the stuff that I'm feeling, which is also the bit of being able to clear the emotional stuff into writing. And gradually I then started to get responses. I started to get things that were coming back in the writing that were not me. And that didn't happen early on, because I think the thing we talk about is energy and frequency. And if you're in grief, you're in a low energy frequency state. And how Callum, when we did actually manage to communicate, how he explained it to me, because when I then said to him, where are you and how are we now communicating? He would say, well, it's like I'm a floor above you, Mum. And we meet in the lift halfway. So you need to be in an energetic frequency to raise your vibration to come up half a floor. And I can actually lower my vibration because I'm not in a physical body. So therefore I am not contained as we are in physical 3D world. I lower my energy down and we meet halfway. And that's how we can communicate.
Interesting. Back to frequency, right? Vibration. It's back to the
frequency,
tuning,
vibration, energy, how you tune yourself. Yeah.
How you tune yourself. It's interesting as you say this. My grandmother passed away in 1994, I think. It's been a long time. Like I realized the other day, my grandmother has been dead longer than we actually lived on the same planet together. Right. Which is sad. To me, every now and then it's very sad. I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't have that. Anyway, that's what's happening. I dream of, once I started practicing Buddhism, I talk to her more in my dreams, and we interact more in my dreams than we did before that. We're back to the whole, I think, grief and your low energy, and you're not open to things, and you're not, and I think I wasn't open to things, and it wasn't until I started to practice Buddhism, and really in the last, I would say 10 years, like my grandmother would show up in my dreams at points in times, and like she will say stuff to me in her, it's her. I know
you
it's
hear the
her.
voice,
I hear the voice, the way she acts, everything that she does, and I'll be doing something, and she will be like, she called me by the name. She called me. I'm all the works, right? Where sometimes your dreams are like, it's a mismatch of your things in your subconscious and how you're working through things. But there's always, she's a constant person as the thing, and she always is the same person. She's never amalgamation of things. And she's actually, out of like my mom, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother, and other people, she's the only one that shows up all the time. Like, she shows up. My mother will show up every now and then, but my mother actually turns to not be my mom. It tends to be me working through something about and it takes the shape of my mother, right? My great-grandmother, very rarely, I think, because it's been so long. But my grandmother is a constant. And I think that to what Callum, how you speak to Callum is, I think, how she speaks to me. Because I'm just open to the universe. And so therefore she shows up and she curses me out every now and then about things. She gets mad at me about things. She's nice to me about things. I mean, it's like things that I'm like, definitely, like, I think the last time she was in one of my dreams, she was cursing me out the way she used to curse me out when I was a teenager. And I was like, wow. And she was mad. And I realized, I'm like, I've done something in me. And she is talking to me because I have not been mad enough with myself. So she's going to be mad with him for me. And so it's an interesting one, right? The vibrate. I like that analogy, how he described it, I find is really right. You have to come to the point where you can
actually
functionally vibrate at the same
frequency.
Frequency. I think that actually works with friendship too, right? And people, and how you connect with people, right? I think we are friends, and we are lifelong friends with people because we vibrate on the same frequency. Right? You vibrate. Like you and I think, for two people from very different worlds who came together, who were sort of thrust together by someone saying, oh, you should talk, right? Most times you do that, and people say, oh, you should talk to this person. And I talk to the person, I give them advice, I talk to them.
Yep. And then that's it.
And that's it, right? You and I there was something that was like, oh, we should keep talking. because the conversation went beyond us talking about nonprofit to other things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that sort of suddenly, like, I think us vibrating on that frequency together is interesting to me. I think that way about lots of my friends who I've been friends with for like 34. My best friend from high school and junior high school, I am still friends with. She's still one of the best people in my life. Avery, I love you. I just had to shout out. And I think because we have forever vibrated on the same frequency. Since we met, we have vibrated on the same frequency.
Yeah.
And we just had our 45th high school reunion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've known her since we were 12, 11, 12. I've known her. It's like, wow. Yeah.
It's the same as the other Anne you had thought was, my friend Anne. That was it. We met the first day of high school and we've been friends all that time as well, and it's just, it's the, and those, although when you speak to the people, that's actually quite rare that people actually have that sort of connection going on. So yeah.
It is.
Go us. We've got.
Look at us. I mean, I've got my other two friends, my friends Matt and Albert. We've been friends for like 30 some odd years. I met them in San Francisco, and we don't live on the same continent. We haven't lived in the same place for decades, but we vibrate on the same frequency, and we have since we met, I think, and we have always and probably will always vibrate on the same frequency because that's just is how it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's rare because, I talk to young people today, or like you talk to people and like, oh yeah, I've been friends with my friend Avery for like 40 years, for like 50 years. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah. I think I'm like, you're not, like, or older people I talk to, and I'm like, oh, my friend so-and-so. And they'll have one or two, but they're like, you have like, and I think some people, if you are blessed enough to have a lot of friends who you've been friends with for years and years and years, it's a nice thing. Because I think there's something in it about how you all vibrate together and how you vibrate. And then if you bring those people together, like I was lucky enough to, at one point, I brought a lot of them together. And now some of them are friends with each other. They talk to each other. So they're all right. It's that back to that vibe. They're all vibrating.
Yep. Yeah.
Talking to each other and hanging out. And
those connections.
Yeah.
And that's I think for me. So this is my, like learning over the last, I mean, it's almost, it's 19 years since Callum died. So that exploration into the conversations with him and the sort of stuff that would then be, okay, so what is this? Because it's almost like I've got this connection with him and with it's, which has gone beyond my whole soul team, as I would call them. This way of kind of helping to, for me, make sense of consciousness, connection with other people, our souls, that whole, this inner frequency and energy of ourselves. And that's the thing, I think, that if more of us were open, so that open to that connection, to that vibration, to that frequency, to that essence that we are always still connected. Those things, we are connected to other humans. There are some that we are more connected to than others, but we are. And if you actually can see another person as a soul, as that energy signature, or whatever way you want to call it, it's vibrating, then the differences that we have kind of disappear. Because it's then the energy, like what vibration, what frequency is that? Are you on? Are you tuning into that person's energy or not? Rather than all of the stuff that we get so loud and shouty about, that is the things that actually keep us separate, and whether that be religion or whatever, it's the thing that then separates us. And for me, actually opening up to the potential of being spiritual is the thing that then connects us. So
it's interesting. It's made me think. I'm about to meet with a couple of my friends in a couple of weeks. We're all getting a few of us are getting together. I don't think we've ever had a spiritual conversation. I think we've talked about it, but we've never had. This is prompting me to ask the question that we started with, right? About what do you. Let's talk about spirituality for a little. Not to, right? Because every now and then you've had serious conversations with your friends and non-serious conversations. And I know my friends, religious wise, I know sort of where they are or where they grew up, but I don't know where they are currently.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it'd be interesting to find out, to have that conversation, because if we are vibrating on the same frequency, which I believe we are, then what is that? Something has tuned us into each other. And what
Yeah.
is that thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
That has tuned us into each other? It could be spiritual practice. It could be just how we see the world, which I guess is part of spirituality anyway, but all those things. And how is it that is where we come to that part that we're still doing it? And they are actually friends, the four of us getting together. Like, I know them, but I know them from very separate parts of my existence, right?
Yeah.
And part of my life.
Yeah.
And now we're all hanging out together. And we've done it before. And we got along really well and we had a great time. And so we're doing it again. And I'm like, this is interesting, right? I would be interested to, I don't know, if I feel like I need to interrogate that. I don't know why I feel like I need to interrogate it, but something in me is telling me I need to sort of add this question of like, how are we in this, the four of us in this universe together? Because something is bringing us together.
But do you not think? I mean, I have quite a lot of these sorts of conversations. Like with people, sometimes randomly, and like on a bench. Other times it's in the cafe with a cup of tea and a scone with some of my friends. And I absolutely love when we have these conversations. It absolutely lights me up. And it is this thing around, because then when you hear somebody else's perspective, or they share an experience that they've had, and they might not have spoken about it. And that's the thing about me saying, like, oh yeah, almost 25 years ago, I wasn't telling anybody. I was hearing somebody call my name. Now I'm sitting here having conversations with people saying, I have communicate with my son and my soul team, and I get stuff, and I get downloads, and I get all this stuff. And it being an opportunity for somebody else to say, well, actually, I've had this experience. I didn't know how to talk about it, how to name it, or what. And if that does is just open us up, it's like you and I. It just opens us up to the connection that deepens then when you can start to share that. And even if we leave going, oh, that's really interesting, I'm curious about that, but it's not quite where I sit. But I'm glad that you were able to share that, because that is then the love, I suppose, which I think is the language, right? I said that love and kindness, the language of the soul, actually then allows us to do that with another human being, and that's us being soul kind.
Yes, that's a nice way to end it. That's a nice way to end it. That's a nice way to end it. We could talk about this. We should do part 2.
We'll come back. We'll come back to this again, because there's more.
This is really, there's more. It's interesting. I could talk about this it's interesting because I don't get a chance to talk about this very often with people, because I think people shy away from things around spirituality, religion, mostly out of fear, right? Because you sort of don't know. It's sort of like politics, right? Suddenly you find out your friend is a raving something that you were like, oh my God, you're that. And I think we feel that way around this. So I think we should talk about it. But I think how you wrap this up with being soul kind, I think. Say it again. That was fantastic.
Well, that's it. Yeah. That's it. You just have, you're open. You sit there and you have the conversation. You open it up. You share the love. You share the kindness. And that's being soul kind. So thank you for listening. Go and have some conversations. See you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation. And if you did, it would be great if you could leave us a 5-star review, and maybe even share this with someone else that you think might enjoy it.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope you join us next week for our next Soul Kind Connections conversation. Bye.